Warning, this video and all other videos on this channel are for entertainment purposes only. The content of this video and all other videos on this channel are the opinions of the creator only and do not constitute legal, trading, investment, or financial advice of any kind. Investing carries a high level of risk and the majority of retail clients lose money. Do not invest any capital unless you understand the risks and you are prepared to lose it all. Alright, hello and welcome to Camel Finance. I'm your boy Camel, and today the message is pretty simple, okay? Don't be quitting just yet. I'm going to show you why I think now is the worst possible time to quit. But before we get into today's episode, I have to address yesterday's poor performance from me. I have to be completely honest, yesterday's video was subpar. Now, by the time I posted it, went out and came back, it had already gotten almost 10,000 views. So that's pretty much everyone that was going to see it had already seen it. So I was thinking, do I delete this? I'm not really happy with it. I didn't really know what to do about it, but I thought, well, the damage is already done. I have to kind of just own my mistake here. In yesterday's video, we were talking about using a simple MA strategy to let you know whether or not a market is trending up or down. Yesterday's video evoked a whole heap of different responses and reactions. Normally, I only read members' comments, but because I kind of messed up yesterday, I did respond to everyone, including non-members' comments. I tried to set the record straight. Some people were just outright confused, and rightfully so. Other people were just asking questions like, hey, Camel, how come you said 30-week moving average, but then showed a daily time frame? And this ranged all the way to people that were outright enraged and were calling me all the names under the sun, and then going one step further and making sure they commented on everyone else's comments to tell them that I was this, that, and the other. So if you're one of those people and you've had your comment writing ability revoked, that will be why. For everyone else, allow me please to set this record straight. Yesterday, I was talking about stage analysis. Stage analysis is typically conducted on the weekly time frame, which means we add a moving average, we flip it onto the weekly time frame, and we conduct our stage analysis. Since I am a daily chart trader, however, I was using the daily chart. I almost never leave the daily chart. And so I was using the exact same strategy on the daily time frame, which of course, whilst I was saying 30-week moving average, I was actually showing a 30-day moving average. Now, everything else I said holds true. The strategy is exactly the same. So if this is our chart, it doesn't matter what it is. What we do is if we set a simple moving average to 30 periods, okay, let's say we start from here, all it will do is count back 30 candles. It will take the average price and then it will paint a line here underneath that candle with the average price. Then what it will do, working backwards, is it will move one candle to the left, it will count again 30 periods, it will take the average price of that, and it will mark here, okay? And it will repeat this process over and over again. If you set it to 30, for example, it will move back one candle, it will count 30 bars, it will average the price and paint another line until eventually we get a moving average, okay? So that's how it works. So for the people asking, how do I find it? You simply go onto indicators. In here, you search for simple moving average or SMA, moving average simple right here. Okay, click that and then change the settings using the settings bar to whatever the number you want to use. And then if you set it for 30 and we flip onto a weekly time frame, you'll have a 30 weekly moving average. If you're on a daily time frame, it'll be a 30-day moving average. And if you're on a 1-minute chart, it will be a 30-minute moving average. So yes, you can use this strategy on any time frame. My preference is the daily, as I said, but typically stage analysis would be conducted on a weekly time frame. And the only real difference is the daily is sharper, meaning it will give you more buy and sell signals, and the weekly is slower, meaning it will give you less buy and sell signals. Other than that, everything I said still holds true. Everything I said is still transferable. You can use the daily or the weekly as per your preference. And remember, it's just a strategy. You don't have to use it. You can use it in combination with other things. If you have an entirely different strategy, of course, you are free to use an entirely different strategy. So I hope that clears that up. I hope that you can forgive me for putting out bad quality videos every once in a while. Of course, when you post every day and you've got over 1,000 videos uploaded like I do, some of them are bound to be a bit rubbish. So I do my best not to post confusing and rubbish videos, but unfortunately, mission failed for yesterday. So I will try to bring it back today. As I said, the message is pretty clear. This is the worst time to quit on crypto, and I want to try to convince you of that right now. This is the MVRV Z score. We check in on this quite often, and you can see down here, okay, is nowhere near this red sell zone where every other major market top occurred, with the MVRV Z right up there in that red zone. So even if we don't get it, okay, even if what we get is a lower high set up here, there is absolutely still space, and of course, I'm pretty sure we are going to break out and smash through this. So either way, it says that we've got more space to the upside, which should see at the minimum a small upside push for Bitcoin, and I would speculate that we are indeed going to break out and massively move higher. If you're not convinced, okay, here's Bitcoin price performance since the halving. The current cycle is in black down here. There is potentially plenty of upside space here with plenty more time to run. Selling out here and expecting this would look, to my eyeball, extremely different to all prior occurrences. Not saying it's impossible, just simply saying if we did something like this, it kind of would look out of place, right? It would look very out of place, especially given how much institutional demand there is in this market. So for me, at least, this is not the time to quit just yet. And we also know where Camel's bull market invalidation is, because I keep talking about this over and over again. We are heading into a late February or early March timing band to see a weekly cycle low, where historically every other weekly cycle low, and those of you that have been following for a while know we've traded every single one, has yielded a double in the Bitcoin price. Fast forward to today, we're already about 2/3, if not 3/4 of the way through this. We just have a few more weeks of putting in this range, of finding that low, and then it's time to set this angle for sure, wherever that low forms. It's time to calculate a double off of whatever that low is, and then look to get hold of a squeeze to the upside. If we hold inside of this range, the target is around 180k. And even if we come all the way back to 75k, which I don't think is likely, that double would still put us at 150k. So exciting times, very nearly there. The message is simple: do not quit just yet. For me as well, as I've been saying over and over again, this is also an extremely powerful setup that we're looking at here, because once we get to this weekly cycle low, you will see me draw a line underneath it and say, that's it, that's bull market invalidation. If that low holds and we do start to move up and we start to get that double, then the trend is still up. The trend is still positive. We're still looking for weekly cycle lows and doubles. This is still a bull market that's alive, well, and healthy. But the nice thing about this weekly cycle low is we can say for sure that becomes bull market invalidation. We certainly do not want to see any kind of push up here, left translation, and here's the key part, a failed cycle, because if we do, that tells us that this is the path, okay, into that October timeframe. And then from there, even in the best case scenario, we get a good couple of months of upside push. Then it will be December, and we'll be well overdue for that 12-month bear market decline into the 4-year cycle low. So once we find this low in just a few weeks' time, not only is it a nice opportunity to add with a low risk, a high probability setup, and a nice area on the chart to manage the risk around with a potential squeeze to 180k plus on the table, but this is also a very, very, very nice place to draw a line in the sand and say, that's the low. We should not be trading below that, and if we do, you will see me lighten up spot. I can't possibly justify holding spot if this cycle fails like this, okay? And the other thing that's nice is because this range here is only about 18 or 20%, it means if we use that cycle low as the invalidation, and that really is, of course, then a failed cycle down into this cycle low, another failed cycle, and then off we go towards that 4-year cycle low, then we would have missed the top by only 20%, which in trading is as good as you could possibly get, especially for an asset as volatile as Bitcoin. To have said I missed the top by 20%, having captured the move from here to about 89k, I would say to you, is pretty successful. So it's a very, very nice setup. We've been very, very gifted with this because often you don't get a chance to set such a clear and tight stop and a clear and tight invalidation. But again, the message is simple, right? Don't quit now. At least wait for that weekly cycle low, at least draw a line in the sand there, and at least use that as your level to say, okay, if the bull market is alive, well, and healthy, then we should not trade below that low. And as always, cycles are doing cycle things. It's important as well to manage our expectations and segregate how we feel versus what we're actually objectively able to observe in the charts. I feel very bearish under the hood. I feel like we're heading into a recession. I feel shocked that we didn't top last year for both the stock market and for Bitcoin. But objectively speaking, it doesn't matter what I feel. What matters is what we can objectively observe in the markets. Even though I was feeling like that pretty much from about here onwards, which is all the way in February of last year, that did not stop me placing trades out of these weekly cycle lows and catching the meat of the move. It did not stop me extracting additional beta using the crypto stocks. It did not stop me continuing to long the entire stock market, bull market from the lows. So it's very, very, very important to be able to distinguish between how I feel and how I act based on what is objectively true. How I feel right now is actually quite different. For the first time ever, I'm looking at this setup and saying, this is really nice, okay? It's really rare to get a line in the sand so close to the top. It's really, really rare that weekly cycle lows show up. I mean, they only occur once every, 6 months-ish for Bitcoin. So we only get about 2 opportunities a year to long a weekly cycle low, and we just so happen to be a few weeks away from this one. And like I said, with my knowledge of cycles, I can say that I know where we are in the 4-year cycle. If this cycle fails, it will be about May by the time it does so. If we fail in May, then needless to say, we're heading down to October. And then by the time we get here, we're not going to top later than Q4, like December. We're not going to top any later than that because the 4-year cycle low is due. So, to think that this move is coming in 8 weeks seems absolutely ludicrous to me. Of course, we can play the cycle low with a nice tight invalidation. Okay, we can play the counter trend bounce. But generally speaking, none of that matters at all. It doesn't matter how I feel. What matters is, what can we say objectively speaking? And objectively, we are looking for that cycle low and a double. And again, we'll draw a line underneath that and use that as our line in the sand to lighten up spot. And as I was saying, we have this fantastic setup where right into the weekly cycle low, we are generating a total reset of sentiment. We are moved from balance to uncertainty. I would suggest to you that we are probably going to push slightly lower down into panic as we force this weekly cycle low, which is extremely common behavior for Bitcoin. And the last time we were there, I pulled up FOMO Finder, I pointed at this purple in here, and I got long. And I noted, especially the level 3 members will remember this, I noted that as I got long out of this cycle low, I was saying things like, it really doesn't feel good. I was saying things like, I've got zero tolerance for any kind of poor performance here. I need to see this cycle low hold. I need to see this thing push up, and it needs to happen immediately, because otherwise we're going to have to start to entertain failed cycles and real problems under the hood. And I remember distinctly a lot of the members said, I can't long it with you, Camel. I just can't do it. I can't possibly do it. I've got to wait for momentum to return. And that is exactly what you'd expect to see into a weekly cycle low. It's exactly what you'd expect to see into a weekly cycle low. It's exactly what you'd expect to see into a weekly cycle low. The only weird one we didn't get a true purple reset of sentiment was this one here. But if you look at how much time it spent, it was hardly anything compared to this. This really wore people down. This really wore people down because it was sideways above 25k forever, right? And of course, this was the bear market low, which wore people down again, which again speaks to needing that timing component, because this is not enough time to really stress people out and make them quit. This, by the time we get there, I think will be about enough time to make people stressed and quit. And we should, I speculate, see some purple show up here right into that weekly cycle low. And once again, it won't feel good. When I go long, I'm going to have to long this knowing that sentiment is going to be in the toilet. I'm going to have to long this knowing that a lot of people are not going to be able to manage longing that with me. It never feels good, because this is exactly what the cycles serve to do, reset and flush the sentiment. So do expect this thing to move slightly more this way, into panic perhaps. But again, don't quit just yet, okay? At least wait for the cycle low, at least draw a line underneath it. And I know a lot of people have a problem with plan B. To this day, I don't know why. I really don't know why. It's just data. You don't have to make it personal, right? Take it or leave it. That's how that's how I see it. And I often make the same point, but I think it's really, really valid. Everyone got mad at plan B here because they were like, look how much it deviated below. This is broken. Plan B is a LARP or whatever, right? That's what everyone was saying in here. But I often point to this and say, how come nobody cared when it deviated to the upside? How come nobody cared when it deviated to the upside? How come nobody cared when it deviated to the upside, right? 3 upside deviations. And then the one time we deviate to the downside, suddenly everyone is out to lynch this man and burn him at the stake. It doesn't seem fair to me, okay? All models are broken. Even Plan B will tell you that. They're all broken, but some are more useful than others. I know a lot of people think power law is more useful. I'm actually in the camp of people that thinks this is more useful than power law. I'm not going to go into that now. I can't really be bothered because the power law people are so cultish in my personal experience. But it does seem to me like, for now at least, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, okay? If this thing ain't broke, then what we should see is a push up, and it should happen pretty rapidly. Now, Plan B has taken the liberty in this next chart of showing us what we should be expecting if his model is going to continue to play. Now, nobody knows, right? But we can't pass judgment now because it hasn't occurred yet. We have to at least give it chance to play out. And for all we know, this is what's coming. If it does, remember, 500k is just 4 months away. And that's not a call or a prediction by me. And of course, there's nothing in this world that says we couldn't trade sideways or even down from here. Of course, that could happen. If it does, and we get 4, 5, 6 months into the future, and one of my red squiggles has played out, then I think at that point it's safe to say, okay, Plan B, your model is not that good. Okay, I have no problem with anyone that wants to say the model wasn't very useful if this plays out. But I think we at least have to give him the benefit of the doubt here. We at least have to give it 4 or 5 months and see if this unfolds, because if it does, then it's going to be pretty wild, okay? It's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be nice to see him post a monthly dot once a month, okay? And confirm that we really did start to morph into a look like this. And again, we don't want to be sitting here saying, no way 500k. Delusion, not possible. If, for all we know, in 4 or 5 months' time, we'll be at 500k, right? You don't want to exclude yourself from being able to take part in a bull run that may well see us at 500k in 4 months. Now, again, I don't know. It seems impossible. There's a part of me that doesn't even want to believe that's possible, because I can't really comprehend having a Bitcoin stack that would have gone from 16k at the lows to 500k per Bitcoin, right? Like I struggle to think what my life would look like if we suddenly hit 500k in 4 or 5 months' time, right? I really do. It's super exciting. And I don't want to attach myself to any kind of emotions because I don't want to be shopping for things in my head, right? I don't want to be thinking about my net worth up here, right? I don't want to be thinking about, the sort of things that would change for a lot of people that have been in this space for a long, long time. I know a bunch of people that have gotten into Bitcoin all the way back here and all the way all the way through these couple of cycles. And I know that if it went to 500K, I know those people will be in completely different positions to how they are now. If this thing goes to 500K, some of them are young and will be able to buy a whole house, which was only their goal in the first place, was to be able to get on the property ladder. Some of them will be able to buy whole properties if this thing gets up here. So I really struggle to comprehend a world in which it's that easy. In 4 months' time, we're all going to be sat on a 500K Bitcoin price. It just seems crazy to me. But again, I'm not excluding it, right? Just in the same way I'm not excluding this, right, or this. I certainly don't want to lock myself out and say, well, I'm just quitting because that's delusion, right? You don't know it's delusion. Nobody knows. It seems impossible, yes. But again, just wait 4 or 5 months and then we'll make a decision, right? It seems like the most prudent outcome to me, at least. Now, the last couple of things I wanted to point at is right here, gold is on fire. It keeps making record highs every day. Something is brewing beneath the surface. Gold never rises like this for no reason, and we shall all know soon what that reason is. Now, I have long been speculating that this is gold rallying not as an inflation hedge, not because of geopolitical uncertainty. I believe this is central bank driven because they are going to use this thing to reprice higher and then pay some of the debt off, settle the debt, fix the debt problems. And that's why I said this, okay? And I've said this a bunch of times before. Gold always knows something. Gold does not rally for no reason. Gold always rallies for a reason. And the reason it always knows something is because it is, largely speaking, central banks that push the price of gold up and down. If the price of gold is on fire like this, it's because central banks are playing part of their plan out. They have been record buyers over the last few years, right out of that 8-year cycle low, which I'll show you in a minute. And they're going to continue to be record buyers and revalue this asset higher because they are going to use it to fix the debt problem. I know there's a lot of talk about strategic Bitcoin reserve and cryptos. Maybe some of that goes into the basket to play a part. But let me tell you, okay, they are not going to allow the Bitcoiner narrative, which is gold will be demonetized by Bitcoin. They are not going to go into their central bank vaults and throw all of that gold in the ocean. Gold is rallying for a reason because it knows something, and what it knows is the central banks have decided to reprice it higher so that they can fix the debt issue. So once again, I see a lot of people out here trying to call tops. I see a lot of people out here saying, oh, who cares, right? Well, let's just, focus on Bitcoin, or gold never does anything, or it's a shiny rock, it doesn't pay dividends. But you're completely missing the point here, okay? Look at gold. This is gold, 8-year cycle low. They occur like clockwork every 8 years. We are only about 2.5 years into this current 8-year cycle. Here's a more zoomed out look, and you can see these 8-year lows, very, very equally spaced. Look how early we are here. And a lot of people think this isn't possible, but when we zoom in and get a closer look today, this thing is playing out exactly as expected. Look at this. I am not a fractal fan, as you know, but this thing is going according to plan. The other funny thing is, people look at this and they go, there's no way, there's no way, there's no way. This is only the half cycle low in the 8-year cycle. It's entirely feasible to me that we see this whole fractal repeat again. Let's try this out. Because the 8-year cycle low here, October 2022-ish, and we need this one October-ish of 2030, this thing's probably going to look much more like this, okay? Now, how high it goes, I don't really want to call a number. I've long been saying that 10 to 15K would be a disappointment. I think that would be the minimum target this gold cycle is going to make. But this is what's ahead of people, right? And they have no idea. No one cares. It's the most beautiful backdrop I've ever seen in my life. The only people that care about this and understand this are central banks, and they are buying as much gold as they can possibly get their filthy mitts on. Meanwhile, every man and his dog is just saying ridiculous things. Like Bitcoin's going to demonetize gold. Gold has no place in the future, right? We'll tell that to the central banks that have got tons and tons and tons of it inside their vaults. What do you really think they're going to throw it in the sea? Of course not, okay? Insane setup we've got here. The 8-year cycle low, we're so early, and I see people wanting to call tops. Look, can we get shakeouts along the way? Yeah, absolutely. If we get a deflationary crash as well, is gold going to fall 30%? Yeah, and I guarantee you, I would bet money on it, that 30% deflationary drop for gold happens right as a weekly cycle low is due. In fact, where's my weekly cycles? There you go, in the blue. I've already spaced them out for you. Okay, so we probably get something like this if deflation shows up, or something like this if deflation shows up. But zooming out in the 8-year cycle, let's turn those back off again. Absolutely no one is bullish enough on gold. I'm telling you, and I'm going to continue to tell you, okay? Insane, life-changing performances ahead here. Is Bitcoin going to continue to play a part? Yes. Am I going to continue to focus on Bitcoin? Yes. But I think it is a huge mistake not to be part of this massive 8-year bull market for gold. If you zoom all the way out, it doesn't do this super often. It spends a little bit of time marking up a cycle and a half, an 8-year cycle and a half, and then it spends loads going sideways. And for some reason, people only focus on the sideways, right? That's what people care about. They look at this and they go, yeah, well, gold's trash, bro. Yeah, well, that's because you didn't catch that. Okay, and then look what gold does again. Huge markup. Where's my pen? Okay, huge markup, and people just ignore that. They only look at this and go, yeah, well, it went sideways, Camel, for 10 years, 12 years, it went sideways. Who cares, bro? Who cares? Well, I care, because guess what? Now we're in a bull market again. Super rare, okay? We've had to wait 12, 13 years for this market to show up, and now here we are, staring down the barrel of a monstrous, rip-roaring bull market for gold. Yes, there will be shakeouts along the way, but believe me, nobody is bullish enough, and it's not by no means a call or a prediction, but if you price gold in a 1-to-1 ratio with a total M2 supply, we get a $42,000 ounce, okay? If you think you're smarter than the central banks, that's your prerogative. But I'm going to stay in my lane. I'm going to do me. And in the level 3 member section, we continue to capture this move via the silver markets and via a whole heap of mining stocks and gold mining ETFs. So happy days there. Long may it continue. The Dixie so far refusing to fail the cycle, but I think it probably is coming. So we'll see, right? We'll see if we can get it. Bitcoin, the message is still clear, okay? Do not quit just yet. It is not yet time to quit. You can see here on this chart, we're getting ever closer to the daily and weekly cycle low, okay? So a little bit more chop, maybe a little flush, puke, and then it is time to party. Then it's time to expect the double. And of course, as I said a million times, then it's time to draw a line underneath that cycle low and use that as bull market invalidation. And the stocks as well continuing to kind of chop around, range sideways. We'll see, right? We'll see. Half cycle low is due any day now, perhaps early next week. So we'll see if we can get underneath some of that. If not, I wouldn't be surprised if this thing has to kind of make a low with Bitcoin sometime early March, and then the two can move higher. We'll see, right? And of course, we'll be open to the downside if it does indeed break to the downside, losing the second angle. Then we have to call tops, since we would have had a third angle violation followed by a second, which is my topping signal. So far though, holding up okay, so we'll see. Continuing to play patient, not in any rush as always. So other than that, I hope you're doing well in life. I hope you consider what I said today. I'm sorry if I confused you yesterday. And until next time, take care from me. All the best. Cheers. Bye.
Camel Crew, come close. It's that time again. People losing their minds, calling for the world to end. Sudden trend line break, just to spook you out. If it gets to you, maybe go fishing for some trout.